Can anyone catch them, do you think?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, unbelievable. We didn't expect that.
As unbelievable as it sounds, this is another Arsenal podcast. That is the Away Gooners podcast. We bring news and reaction from Arsenal fans from all over the world. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Away Gooners podcast. We've got Deepak back with us, Arun back with us. Probably we'll get two more added later. I'm still waiting to hear back from them, but it's a really good meeting back, guys. Although we lost the FA Cup game, we won against the same opposition with 3 goals. I know if Ellen was here, he would go and say he predicted the 3 goals scored. But I'll start with Arun, especially because he predicted a loss.
Yeah, that's what I'm always going to predict. I'm always going to predict that. That's what I have. That's how much belief I have in the team. It's not just like the opposition; it's the team and it's.
But we are 4 points of or 7 points of Liverpool or 4 points of Liverpool.
Why are you guys even thinking about Liverpool? Like, I really don't understand. When I see these things, I'm like, why are you guys thinking about Liverpool? Like, it makes no sense to me.
No, but everyone seemed to have lost the game this week, right? Everyone around us. Aston Villa lost it.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Let's be realistic and look at people who are within reach and not the guys like Liverpool.
Okay. What's your reaction to the game, especially this game, and in hindsight with the FA Cup game, really, because everyone felt that Arteta threw away the FA Cup game to win the Premier League game. Did you feel that way, or did you feel like no, he played a really good, strong side against Southampton in the FA Cup too?
I really don't see like why people are complaining so much about the team that he played for the FA Cup. I mean, that's how your cup games go. That's how you're supposed to rotate. And we're not playing United or like Liverpool or City. We're playing Southampton. So I really don't understand why people are like worried so much about and causing such a huge issue about the starting lineup. This was expected. You obviously want to give your chances to your players in the league, and definitely Laka needed a breather. So Eddie, again, if you're not going to be giving chances to guys like Eddie in these cup games, where else are you going to give them chances? These are the only opportunities you can provide them. If you want to assess what sort of a player he is, then he has to play these games. So I really don't understand why people were so pissed about the starting lineup. I mean, like, you cannot expect Saka and ESR to play week in, week out. They're 19, 20 years old, and we're already putting all the burden of the league on them. And you want to play them again in the FA Cup game? I don't know. I really don't think so. Yeah, I agree that this was probably our best opportunity to get into Europe, winning the FA Cup. But then this one game against Southampton is not going to win you the FA Cup. There are a few more games as well. So with the squad that we have and with whatever he has in the season that we've had, I really don't see like any, like, I wasn't expecting us to win the FA Cup. So let me be clear. I wasn't expecting us to win the FA Cup. So given all that, I mean, like,
then why would you call that as our best chance to go through to the Europe?
Yeah, I don't expect us to finish in top 6 otherwise. So this seems to be winning this and going to Europa League is probably the reason. By Europe, I just don't mean the Champions League.
No.
So it's like either a top 6 finish or you win one of these cups and you go on. And we're already out of the Carabao Cup. We're out of this one too. So getting into real estate, Europe got like double tougher. It's doubly as tough as what it was before. So.
Deepak, do you feel the same way about leaving out of the FA Cup, or are you fine with us not going all the way, all in for the FA Cup?
I'm fine with like going out of the FA Cup. I feel like always like FA Cup wins has like papered over the cracks which we have been having in the game. So I'm happy that we are out of the FA Cup, and so that we can concentrate on the league and hope we finish as much higher as we can.
Why is both of you not even talking about Europa League being another chance for us to, have a silverware?
Why are you guys thinking about Europa League being achievable through the league?
Why? because with Emery,
we not learned anything like seriously from what we've been dealing with.
The whole point of us being together is that we are a bunch of deluded Arsenal fans who think that Arsenal is better than what they are. Isn't that the whole point?
For me, like given the start we had this season and
Uh-huh.
like the form we are in, my expectations are pretty low with this season. I'll be happy if we like move on to the next round in Europa and start performing well in the league. Who we are facing? I think we are facing Benfica. It's
Yeah.
a tough tie.
Yeah.
I don't think so. We might win that game, but still, if we move on to the later stages of Euro Cup, if we reach quarterfinal, I will expect us to win. That is the thing. But if we have, I still don't have any hope of reaching the like winning the cup. I just want us to finish like as much as like high as possible in the league and take it from there.
But how good do you feel that, or how bad our luck is now that Frank Lampard got sacked and they replaced him with Thomas Tuchel?
You
Deepak?
mean luck? What do you like?
Yeah,
What would
because if Frank Lampard would have been in charge of Chelsea, we would have finished higher than them by the trend that it was happening.
I
Now
don't
that
think
they,
so. We would have finished like higher than them because they have like really good players. Like
yeah,
they have
but
like
but that's the whole point of having Fat Frank there, because he was having good players and he was
yeah,
screwing it
that's
up.
why. Yeah, but they were winning like before. Like it's they are like us right now, like in a bad
They did
form.
manage to finish top four. So I mean, last season,
Oh,
so it cannot be completely said that it's because of him that they would have finished lower than us. I guess. I mean, sorry to cut you off, Deepak. Yeah, go on. That's all right.
yeah, no problem. Like, but they have like really good players and they signed a lot of good players. So I don't think so. We would have finished even Frank Lampard wasn't fired. So, but right now I'm like I don't think it's like Thomas Tuchel is like a really good coach. So I think he might turn it around for them. But I hope so. They don't finish in top four. But I don't think so. We would finish ahead of Chelsea for sure after his appointment.
Hmm. Anyways,
I don't know. I mean, like Tuchel is a good coach, but I don't think he's as good as what people hype him up to be. If
but
you are
didn't we want Tuchel when before we appointed
yes,
Arteta?
we did, but anyway, I don't trust any manager who struggles at PSG.
Hmm.
I
He didn't
don't like.
struggle at PSG.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
asked.
He took
He
them to the finals, right?
he
yeah.
took
But
them to the
this
finals.
season, forget about winning anything domestic in France. The
Yeah.
PSG with the resources they have and with how the rest of the league plays, they should be winning everything domestic. If
Hmm.
they are not able to be in at the top in France, then the manager is bad. He's doing something really bad. Forget about the other teams like Nice might be playing nice, Lyon might be playing nice, Marseille might be. Forget about all that. With players like Neymar and Mbappe, just those two guys alone, the very fact that you have them in your team should be able to get you to where you have to be, which is the first spot in France. If you're not able to achieve that, the reason why he was probably sacked was they're third right now, right? PSG is third right now.
No,
Yeah.
the reason he was sacked was he was having so many issues with the board, especially with his director, some Leonardo or something. So
Hmm.
that is the reason he was sacked. He like spoke against them publicly, saying that he didn't get the transfers he wanted and something like that. Maybe that was one of the reason he was fired.
Hmm. But getting back to the game, Arun, were you surprised with the starting lineup, especially with Cedric in, Luis in,
For
Pepe
the for
in,
the which game
for
are
the
you talking?
Southampton game, the Premier League game,
Oh, the Premier League game. Cedric in.
in the
Cedric.
left back
Yeah,
position
Cedric
again.
was playing left back, right?
Hmm.
Probably had like the greatest game of his Arsenal career. And I wouldn't even say yet.
Till now,
This,
till now,
no, no, no. This is
till
going to be
now.
the greatest game he ever plays wearing an Arsenal jersey. That's it. He's hit a ceiling. So, I wasn't surprised honestly. Like I wasn't
No,
expecting.
because why I asked that question, especially with Cedric in, because Ayman was tried at the left back
Yeah,
when
yeah.
when Tierney.
That's exactly why I felt like Cedric would be given an opportunity. Because
Mhm.
AMN has been tried. It's obvious that things are not working out, and in this like we have seen that for us to be an effective attacking team, we need the left-sided wing back to be pretty good
Mhm.
because that's where our attacks start from. That's where we try to do all of that side of the pitch. So given that, and given what AMN has been contributing, or rather not contributing, I wasn't expecting him to start. I mean, Cedric is a right back, but he is a right-footed left back as well. He has played there. It's not like it's new for him, and his attacking instincts were what were needed at that point, especially given that they did not have their first choice right back in there. So that meant that it was a lot more opportunity for us to attack, which he is able to do. And I don't think Eamon would have been able to attack at all. That doesn't seem to be in his instincts. So I wasn't expecting that. But yeah, maybe Lewis was a bit surprising for me. I wasn't expecting Lewis to start. I was expecting him to start from this point on in the season only where we have like injury crisis, or like, we need to rest some players. That's the only point. Otherwise, I wouldn't have expected Lewis to start at all. And it showed in the game too, like for quite a few points in the game, he did lose his concentration, like it was showing that he was rusty. But then probably Gabriel was not ready enough. It showed in the previous game that he played, and it was again the thing with Mari, with all that. He plays one more game and we play like 8 million, or some sort of weird clauses that we have would have prevented like for Arteta from playing him either. So that's why probably Lewis played. But yeah, that was surprising for me. I wasn't expecting Lewis to start.
Deepak, talking about Lewis and the back line though, Holding had a really good game, I thought so. And also he was very vocal. He has become one of our mainstays in the back. Do you feel that he is good enough? Or do you feel that we have to dip into the market, buy a center back at the first chance we have?
What about Saliba then? Where do you want to dip into the market?
No, that's what I'm asking Deepak's point on. let's see.
Yeah, like I don't think so. Center back should be our first choice. I want like a creative midfield.
No, I get that. This is just like
yeah, like for me, like Holding has really surprised me. Like this season, he has been one of our like most improved players, I would say. He has become more vocal, and I can see some leadership in him. I saw like he was vocal in the game.
Yeah, he was shouting at Louis like line, Louis line.
I saw that. Yeah. So yeah, I'm really impressed, and I guess this is he has started getting like a lot of games. So I guess that has also helped him a lot to improve. Plus, I think he's not like a world-class defender. He's like a good enough player.
But that's my question, right? Why are we always looking for a world-class defender? Because we could potentially have a world-class defender in Gabriel. He's 22, he's young, he's mobile. He could develop into one, right? He has more potential than any CB we have. He has more potential than most of the CBs in the league. Like maybe Fofana would be better, or like maybe like potential wise.
If you see all the teams which are performing really well in the league, they have always like a really like good experienced defender, like playing against like an young defender. If you take Leicester, they have Evans, who's like a good experienced defender against Fofana. Then let's take Liverpool. They're playing so bad because they are missing like who's that? Van Dijk. And then like Maguire is a good enough defender for me. So if you take every team, Chelsea improved a lot because they signed Silva like defensively. So I think we might need like a good experienced defender. We thought Lewis would be that, but definitely he's not that. Like he has enough.
No, honestly, tell me honestly, did you ever think that he was going to be the experienced defender?
No, we just.
But I had the hope because he was getting older. I thought he would develop his like the only problem I had with Lewis in his before joining Arsenal is that he has this temperament issue, right? It's not about the talent. Lewis always had the talent. He has this passing range. He had a lot of things, but the only thing that was missing was his temperament for me. And I thought like getting old, he would get that temperament.
But he hasn't. That has been the problem,
right? But yeah, I was very surprised with how good game Holding had, and this is not the first time I noticed that.
Not just this game. He has been having like almost like 10 or 12 games. Like he has been like really good, like really solid.
Yeah.
So
For me, yeah, he's probably the one in the team who's punching the most above his weight. If you think about it, his skill level and what he's performing on the pitch is way higher. How old is he? 24, 26?
I think he's 26.
26, yeah. So probably he's one of those players who has like a decent career, like, and starts fading, starts making mistakes by 28, 29.
Mhm.
But for 2 million, this is very good. That's what I would say. But at the same sense, I just want to tell about like the fact that you asked, why are we looking for a world-class defender?
Mhm.
If you have the ambition of winning the league, you need a world-class defender. We've been like trying to develop players for the
But
last 20 years,
Mhm.
and none of them have developed into what we thought they would, or have developed and gone on to win things elsewhere.
Mhm.
None of them have helped us.
No,
And
that is true. But the
have
thing is,
got,
like, how long do you see us going back into winning the league stage, right? I don't see
I
us.
don't know. I
I
don't
don't
know.
see us
But
at least for next 3-4 years.
yes,
And
you
my
don't
hope
see.
is,
That's
why we
you.
might.
You probably don't see it because you are expecting Gabriel to grow into a world-class defender, which he might or he might not. But if you really want to see things happening in 3 or 4 years, we need a definite experienced defender. In 3 or 4 years, you're probably going to have the same problem again. Gabriel is a world-class defender who is going to partner him. Like I just said, a 28, 29-year-old Holding was more prone to making mistakes would be the partner, and we would still be like, oh, it's another season of how things could have been. That's exactly what we're going to be talking about. So, like Deepak said, the difference that one good center back makes, one world-class center back makes, is very obvious in how Liverpool have been performing since Van Dijk went out. You just you take him out of the team. The rest of the team is probably the same. I don't see any differences. You just take that one guy out, and that team is like you said in the beginning, we have just 7 points away from us. So that makes a whole lot of difference. Your ambitions drive your transfers. Your transfers are very driven by your ambition. If you want to sit and wait and hope a player develops, you've been making that mistake for like I said, for the last 20 years. Who are you can name everybody. Gibbs, starting from Gibbs at left back. We had so many players that we waited and hoped that they would get better, but nothing happened.
Yeah,
And the ones who did get better, like Nasri or Fabregas, they just left to win things elsewhere. So why do we have to develop more players when there are certain positions that you can develop players? Take them on the creative half of the pitch. The top five, who are supposed to be the ones scoring goals for them, start developing players because it's much easier. You have more freedom there. These are the positions at the back, the center back, left back, or the defensive midfielder, where you need to have a highest levels of concentration throughout the game. And you cannot expect a 20-year-old to be developed at that point into someone. You need to be really good at 20 to be able to be developed.
Tony Adams did.
That's what I'm saying. You need to be really good at 20.
Maybe we would have one more Tony Adams. But
No, because Sol Campbell was the last world-class defender we had, and that
Yeah.
was the last time we won the league.
Yeah,
After
yeah.
that, we haven't
We
had
haven't
any
had a world-class
world-class
centre back.
defender.
you guys don't think that Mertesacker was world
no.
class?
No, nowhere.
When we
nowhere.
went close, when we went to this, when we
If
finished second.
Mertesacker was world class, we would have won much more than what we did.
Yeah, and then who was that? Koscielny.
Koscielny.
I him too much. He's
No,
not like world-class.
No, I don't think so. I mean, Koscielny is a good defender. I don't think he was world class by any standard.
Koscielny was the same as Holding. He's the one that I take as an example. Someone who has like a ceiling which he achieves much faster than expected. But then like that is his ceiling. He's not going to get better than that. That's
you
how
see,
I see
every
Holding.
team who has won the league, they have like a world-class defender. Like City had like Company and stuff. Now like Liverpool won because of Van Dijk. So every team needs like a world-class defender to take them forward and win the league.
Because
Yeah, but-
like you said, the experienced one is the one who keeps the entire backline switched on. He's the one. He's like I said, those were the things that we expected from Lewis. He's supposed to be switched on all the time. Always keep his eye open. The thing that Holding did to Lewis was supposed to be the other way around. Lewis was the one supposed to be like yelling at Holding and telling him to be in line. So that's the kind of player you need. You cannot expect Gabriel to do that. I don't think he's ready to do that.
But talking about the back and the defense side of it, I felt Leno had one of his best games in recent times. even though he conceded the goal, even though we considered the goal, he saved everything else. Did you guys feel that way about Leno, about this game? There were like a lot of saves, lot of palming away, lot of reaction saves that I felt he made.
For
And
me, like I feel like we have like finally we have like a good goalkeeper in Leno, like so that we can depend on someone
Yeah, yeah,
who will
yeah.
like bail us out, like even the like some Lewis moments or something like that.
Mhm.
So yeah, I didn't feel like it was like it was one of the best games. I am like feeling right now like it is like it's like okay, Leno saved. I have reached that save.
No, not just about the saves. Why I asked that, Deepak, is because once we got tired, especially, or once he saw that David Lewis was making all those passing mistakes,
Mhm.
right? He was making a lot of mistakes. Leno had the sense to go long because there was until I think 30th minute or something, we were playing all those like with the defenders back in and then playing the short pass to them and then moving the ball up. That's what we were doing before, like for the 30th minute or something. And then Lewis loses like a couple of balls, like passing badly, and then I think Walcott misses a chance, something like that. And then after that, Leno decided he would go long. That
Yeah,
was
so yeah, like that was good from him. Like, so yeah, as I said, like it's like not for me. It was like a normal day for Leno because he has been playing like really good, like
Yeah,
this entire season.
yeah.
So I didn't like. So it was good performance from him. I
But
don't.
are you worried about the goalkeeping situation though? Because we have signed Matt Ryan and everything, and also like Leno has like I think 2 years in his contract or something.
Yeah, okay. You
So
think like Leno wouldn't extend the contract? I think we should like sign him to like tie him to a long contract because
Yeah.
I don't want to lose him.
yeah.
Finally, we found like a good goalkeeper and like hope we don't mess it up usually the way we do, like messing
Probably
up.
he'll probably sign an extension next season, end of next season.
I
Yeah,
And also coming to Matt Ryan, I think he's like a decent enough like backup
backup.
for us.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
he's on loan, right? He's not signed with us. He's on loan. He's
Maybe
a
yeah,
loan
probably
signing.
we might extend his contract like a
yeah.
year. Yeah.
Mm.
So I don't know which games he would get to play because we are out of FA Cup. I don't think so. We would start him in Europa, given that we want to win that or whatever we want to do there. So I don't know which games he would get to play. Yeah, let's see.
Probably like a home games at Europa after if we have like good lead in one leg or something like that.
No way it's happening.
Just
You
even
wouldn't
if
even
we have a
trust him to
60-goal
that
lead, I will
level.
play Matt Ryan. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be. Yeah, like another thing because of that, like Leno's distribution has been so bad with his long balls that when he actually does something good in one game, it seems like he's having his best game ever. That's what I think because like his distribution is not great. That's probably his weakest aspect. I would put it like much higher than like commanding the backline, but his distribution is extremely bad. So when he has one good game, it seems like he's having the greatest game of his life. But that's not it. I mean, like Deepak said, he's been playing really well of late, and this was expected from Leno. I don't know. I mean, like I expected this from Leno. He is an extremely good shot stopper, and that shows in the game. So that is not surprising for me.
It's like fate or something, right? Our last good keeper before Leno was German, Matt Jens, and then we got another German goalkeeper, and that's our next good.
I would say Leno is better than Lehman.
No, I mean that is something that I would leave for discussion. But what I'm saying is that we never had it. It's always working out with the German keeper for
Oh yeah,
us.
German keepers are the best in the world.
Hmm. But moving on, I mean, not just moving on. The whole strategy of playing Pepe from the left seemed to have worked. He worked hard. Like defensively, he did a lot of good job. I can see Arun smiling, so I'll bring that to
He's like getting up and
getting up
ready
and
to
getting
talk.
ready to, yeah, this is my time. He not just scored the goal, he was working his ass off in this game more than anything else that I've seen him recently. He's motivated. He wants that place. You could see that he wants that place, right? And the team was responding to him too. Like when we are talking about Leno going long, all the long balls went towards Pepe. It didn't go to Saka end; it went to the Pepe end, and even the movement of the ball and everything was really good. How good did it feel, Arun?
I mean, like it was nice to see him play this way. I mean, the complaints that we've had against Pepe are that he puts himself in trouble, and while trying to figure a way out of the trouble that he created, he gets lost. And he doesn't. He always seems out of sync with the team. He doesn't like play with the team. He's always like a selfish guy playing like trying to score a solo goal in a two-man FIFA team, you know. So that's how he's playing. The problem with him playing in the right was that he was getting more and more predictable. Like I said, he was like pushing the ball, trying to cut in. And what happens is naturally when he's trying to cut in, they were crowding the spaces out. Like they were not giving him any space. And then he had to get the ball out of that situation, and that's when he loses the ball because it's easier around there to defend against him. When he played on the left, I found that he had more of a natural angle. He wasn't trying to. He was pushing the ball more forward than he ever did when he was playing on the right. It made it seemed like he was extremely comfortable with what he was doing. None of that gangly, like trying to get out of tight spaces and failing. None of that. And the very fact that he had like the team moving along with him whenever he was trying to progress the ball, seeing that there could be a possible chance, that was really nice to see, and that is what is the key to his consistency in his game. The more consistent he gets, it's not going to make any difference, whether he plays on the right or the left. But he has been he's been very good. Not very good. He was very good. He had not has been. He was very good in the game that he played on the left, and the comfort, like I said, that he had with the ball on his natural side without having to cut in, because there was no need for him to cut in and try to do something fancy. That made life so much easier for him. Plus, he also had like a wider area to pass to.
Mhm.
So that made things very easy for him.
And also, Deepak, did you feel that this is partly because of him partnering someone else other than Hector Bellerin?
No, I don't think so. Like almost every defender like knows Pepe is going to cut him.
Mhm.
So they just show him the inside, ask him to cut in and just defend him and like take the ball away from him. Plus one more thing is his right foot is I don't think so he does even have a right foot. I've never seen him use it or do anything. So it is pretty much easy to defend against Pepe when he plays on the right. So almost everyone knows he's going to cut in and shoot or cut in and pass to Lacazette or do something and fancy dribbling. So I don't think so it is something to do with partnering with Bellerin. Even if you get like a world-class fullback, I think he would do the same thing, try to cut in and do something. So I don't think so it was the partnership. So yeah, I always wanted him to try on the left and see what he can do. And it was like a really good game. So he had like more space. So he was able to express himself more, do a lot of dribbles. I feel he's the best dribbler in our team. And yeah, probably he would like get more chances on the left.
But then, how do that work? Because once Aubameyang comes back, he doesn't get his chance on the left. Uh, I mean, it's too left-sided now with the players that we have. Good that Saka moved to the right, or else that would have crowded that spot out. Like Saka being on the left, Aubameyang on the left, Martinelli on the left, now Pepe on the left. So can we play like 11 players on the left and get away with it? That'll work. But that's.
I think Martinelli is the sort of player who can play like anywhere in the front three. Of course, its effectiveness is not going to be the same. He's probably at his best when he's playing from the left, but doesn't mean that he's not going to be able to play on the right as well. The kind of game that he plays is very suited. I wouldn't say it's like Reece Nelson, but like his game is very suited to be playing on either flank. I mean, I don't see any issue with that. So I probably Abba would be the first choice on the left, and Pepe I think would be second choice if he continues playing well, and that would mean that Saka and Martinelli can play on the right. But yeah, so I'm not sure if that would cause issues, and if it does, it's a nice problem to have.
Yeah, the problem of plenty is better than a problem of none. Yeah, that is so true. But Deepak, I want to hold you down there for the Pepe goal because the pass was from your favorite player that
Yeah,
created the that created the
Yeah,
goal. Captain,
yeah,
leader,
he was
legend.
like, yeah, he has been like really good. He has been our best player for the past 3 or 4 games.
Come on, best player is a
Yeah,
little bit stretch.
no, he
Maybe
has
the
been. Tell me who else like played
Saka,
better.
Saka.
Oh, what Saka? Without
So,
like Saka wouldn't have the ball.
no, but still,
Yeah,
that is what we have been talking just before this podcast, right? Like before the recording,
yeah,
we were talking about how we have to give him like every
yeah.
few
We
games
got
a
that
red
like
card or some trouble for him
some
to come
kind
back
of
stronger.
drama in his life. Like we got that meme, like some forward, like we Arteta has to create some kind of drama in his life when the team
yeah.
starts performing. Yeah, like
It was a great
I,
pass. It was a great pass. The way he
yeah,
looked it up and passed it, it was really good.
it was the same pass which he made to Lacazette. As usual, Laka missed it. I
I
expected
was,
him to miss it.
I was,
One
I
on
was,
one, Laka is the worst finisher I have seen.
I was just about to get to that point after finishing the whole Pepe conversation. But yeah, that I am so frustrated when Laka goes one on one.
Yeah, like he's bound to miss it always. I don't know why. What happens to him? He
He
always misses like one-on-ones.
Yeah,
I
when
don't
he
know
turns
whether
and shoots, he shoots amazing. When he is crowded, he shoots amazing. And when he runs in, he is able to hit target. But when he's one on one,
I don't know. He thinks it is way too easy. Probably he takes his
or
like
he thinks, is it also a part of where he is he's concerned on the one on one? He thinks too much because he was trying like
yeah.
he had the
That might be
whole
another
goal to
reason.
score, and then he tried to place it between the keeper's leg. I was like, why? You could have shot anywhere, right or left of him, and it would have been in.
Yeah, that might be also a reason. Having too much of options, he's messing it up. Like, should I place it on the left, right, or go in between the legs of the goalkeeper?
Yeah,
Like
no.
too much confusion in his mind, I guess. Yeah, yeah, but like yeah, the Pepe goal was like really good. I like the way he held up the defender. I thought he would like trip him up and we would get a penalty. Yeah, but like I like the strength like Pepe had,
No, he
and it
always
was
seems to
like a
have a
really good finish, and it was
yeah.
a
He
good
always
finish.
seemed to have the strength to hold off defenders, and
Yeah.
but I didn't like the way he celebrated. I don't know, like the whole shushing gesture of it.
Man.
Like you just scored one goal, dude. Calm down. You have been underperforming for so long.
Yeah,
So
it happens like yeah, you are like at the end you are just a human being. You are supposed to show emotions. I don't like blame him like for celebrating like that. We are
but yeah, I am a little bit little bit concerned about Lacazette. I mean, he's been playing really good. That I don't have any concern. But his one-on-one with the keepers, how many times is he missing that, Arun?
Yeah,
It's
he does.
frustrating. It's frustrating to see that he's through on goal and he misses that.
Yeah, whenever you get frustrated, just think about Andre Smith's one-on-one in the 2006 Champions League
Yeah,
finals.
but that's not going to help.
You can console yourself with that.
That's not going to help me being consoled. That's 2006. No, that's not going to help.
Yeah, it is frustrating. Like you expect a striker whom we played like paid upwards of 40 million to be able to score on one-on-one situations, but his game has evolved so much beyond just being like a striker, a purebred striker, that even if he does miss these situations, he contributes in a lot more ways. I know that you did say that he's been performing well. Yeah, he's been performing more than well. He's performing really well. He's been like he's not put a foot wrong outside of the 6 yard box, I would say. It's only when it gets in there or closer to thereabouts that he's struggling, and one on one is yeah, probably it's a mental block too. He probably knows that he doesn't have a good chip. He definitely doesn't have a good chip. And when with a non-rushing goalkeeper, you're always your best option is a chip. If you have a good chip, you're going to get that goal. He doesn't have that, and that's probably also playing in his mind. So yeah, he does hit the ball straight to the goalkeeper. That's the most frustrating part. Even if you hit it away, you're missing it. That's fine. You're at least like trying to make an attempt. You're trying to hit the ball on the target, or trying to get a goal. When he hits it straight at the goalkeeper, it's like, you dude, make an effort, man. Come on,
Yeah,
make an effort. Seriously.
but
But I wouldn't like worry a lot about it, in the sense that he's going to probably be getting more chances as well. Like, if we are playing better, if there's going to be more ball progression, he's going to provide a lot of balls. He's also going to be getting a lot of balls. So we cannot expect like every striker to score 10 on 10. That's not going to happen. They get 10 chances, they score 10. They're either Messi or God, you know. So if that's not the case, then we'll just have to be happy with what he does, which I think is normal for any striker.
no, I
We should just
accept that.
probably take it as a miss and not as like a one-on-one miss, you know.
No, he scores like even in this game, the goal he scored, the third goal that went in, the goal he scored, he's wrong-footed that. But I thought he was not going to. It's not going in. That's what my thoughts were. It's either going to bounce off the defender, or maybe a own goal. That's the most I was hoping. I was not hoping that Lacazette is going to score. He scores the difficult ones. That's my problem. And with Lacazette though.
That should not be a problem. If it is a problem, then it's a good problem to have. He's
No,
scoring.
no. The concern is that Lacazette, we have to at some point talk about renegotiating, right? He has 2 years left on his contract. Probably by end of the season, that's going to be 1 year. We need to renegotiate, and that's a question. If he is going to be this striker, where he contributes a lot more, but then he also doesn't convert as much as we want. Do you want to continue having Lacazette in the team, or do you want to go into the market to get another striker who could do both?
I don't think so. There are like enough strikers in the market. Like I don't like see any like world class strikers in the market except for Haaland, which we can never get.
No way.
Any world class affordable striker in our bracket, in our pay purchase bracket.
Yeah, even
no
like
one.
even like expensive like forwards, I don't see anyone available in the market. I don't see like any world class center forwards which there used to be like in the 90s or early 2000s.
Yeah,
Or even
but
5 years ago.
I could throw in a name. How about Lukaku?
Why
You are not getting Lukaku for sure.
No, but why? Why do you want Lukaku?
He can do both.
Even
Don't you think he can do
Lukaku's
both?
first touch is like
The team, our players dependent on the first touch, and with his first touch, no.
and I don't think so Inter would let him off go that easily. He would be expensive.
So it's Lacazette for us.
Yeah,
I mean, I
would
like Lacazette.
gladly, yeah, I would gladly extend his contract because I feel he is like very crucial to the system which we play. I would say like he is our Firmino, like Firmino. in Liverpool. I wouldn't say, like,
The defending striker, the defensive
Yeah.
striker, or whatever.
No, but he's scoring goals as well. I mean, like the system allows him to score goals as well. It's not like he's out of the game just playing the decoy, you know. So he's definitely scoring goals. I mean, like his returns are good. Even if he's not scoring, he's providing assists. And the way football is evolving, you will definitely need to have a striker who is able to take one for the team and do all this. You know, so definitely,
Also,
yeah. I
like,
mean,
we don't expect him to score like 25 goals or
Yeah.
20 or something. Our expectations is like just 10 or 15 goals. And like
We
our main
distribute
source
the
of
goals.
goals has always been Aubameyang.
yeah.
No,
As long as Aubameyang is there, I would be happy to have Lacazette as his like partner or like partner in crime.
Mhm. No, the question was because it's about the extension. It's not about the next 2 years. It's about the years after that. That's why I was having that question, especially being he's not going to get younger. He's going to get older. He would have he's not the fastest player on the pitch. So the one thing that I would want my striker who's old is to have good finishing. And that is why the question was, I mean, to me, he is one of the most improved players under Arteta, who proved Arteta wrong. Arteta put him out of the team, was putting him in this all different positions, and then he comes in, he performs and performs and performs and performs. Now we are saying that we cannot drop him out of the team. That's the way player has to win the shirt. But to continue,
Just one small thing, because we were talking about developing a center back, right? We should be looking to develop a center forward, not a center back. We should be looking to develop a world-class center forward, because center forwards are more expensive than center backs anyway. And with a 2-year extension for Laka's contract, it should be either Balogun or Eddie that we should be trying to, develop. And out of those two, it seems like Balogun has more of a chance to develop into a better forward than Eddie.
I don't understand that concept of hyping Balogun yet. At that age, even Eddie had the same kind of hype around him, but he was not able to set up.
Yeah, it's not about the hype. It's about, like, as a product, as a modern striker, the physical ability that Balogun has.
We have not seen anything for that. Like, we have not seen anything to prove that he has a physical ability to
we did see when he came on to play those games, and every game that he plays, Eddie is more of like an instinct striker. Balogun is more of making things happen striker. That is.
But we have not seen him do that. My concern is we have not. No, we have not.
In the one game that he came out, the way in which he turned, I've never seen him do that.
No, one game
it's just that one example is a simple example of the physical difference that both of them have. That's what I'm not saying Balogun is world class. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying the games that he played, the profile that he has built as a player is more of someone he's not like just there to finish the goals. That's what I'm saying. And that is more of the kind of player that we need for now and for the future, more dynamic player than Eddie. That's what I'm saying. But
I get the profile of the player. I just don't get the hype around Balogun being better than Eddie or could be better than Eddie, because for me, I mean, I'm not a fan of Eddie in the first place, but I feel that Eddie is being slagged so much in favor of the shiny new toy called Balogun. We have not seen anything out of him, but we just assume that he's better than Eddie because Eddie has not been good enough. That is something that I cannot understand from the Arsenal fan point of view. If at this point, if you ask me, if either of those two players are going to become great with Arsenal or better with Arsenal, I don't know. I don't think both of them could. I think both of them could be, but I don't think both of them could be too. So that's my answer to it. But one player who has already made into the Arsenal system is Saka. How good! I mean, we have been talking about that kid for so long. We have been praising him for so long. But again, in this game, not just in the game, after the game, in the interview, he said, "I told Lacazette that this game I'm gonna run in behind." And then I went back and rewatched the game. And every time Lacazette got a ball where he had the defenders pulled, he was trying to reach Saka. So this kid has that intelligence that against this team, I could do this. And it pays off, right? I was worried when we gave him the number 7 shirt. I was worried that we are putting too much pressure on him. But we never had a great number 7, right? Perez was a great number 7. After that, Rosicky was a decent number 7. But we never had
like as iconic as United's number 7.
But even United, apart from Cristiano Ronaldo, who was their great number 7?
There was who was that?
Was that Sanchez wearing 7 for some time?
Oh, Sanchez wore number 7, is it? No, he wore number 17, right?
Sanchez? He wore 17, and did he not change to 7 for his last season?
I think so. Before he left or after Rosicky retired or something like that.
Yeah, it seems like he if I remember right, he did wear 7, or am I wrong? I don't know.
No, I think he wore 7 for some time. I think he wore 7 for some time, but still that's again. But I was really happy that this kid is turning heads. A little bit scared, but also happy, right? Because I feel that now the teams are going to target him, try to foul him and all those things. We know Premier League clubs.
That's good. That's good. If clubs are trying to target him, that's good. It will help him evolve as a player.
Hmm.
The
That's a
good
good.
ones, those are the ones that we want. The ones who are able to like get out of being targeted by other defenders and are able to find their way out and then still do things are the ones that you really want. Those are the real deals. Everybody can be hyped up. Like we can keep talking about any 18-year-old, 19-year-old based on like 3 or 4 performances. But the good ones are the ones who even they don't give an opportunity for getting found out. And even if they are found out, they find a way, another way to make things happen. Those are the kind of players we need. Otherwise, we'll just end up with Walcott's, all of Walcott's in the team. Like,
But by the way, did you guys see the Walcott miss? Like, I mean, I don't know if it could be called a miss, but he just bundles things up and shoots way off. It was happy to see. But Deepak, that goal was on his weak foot again, and
Yeah.
that assist was again on his weak foot. Does he really have a weak foot, or
Yeah. I
now,
don't know.
this is the
Like,
hype that we should stop
yeah.
doing. This is the hype. Does he have a weak? Of course, he has a weak foot. What the fuck is that?
no?
Yeah,
But
the
yeah, go ahead.
biggest thing which I like about Saka, or like I liked about Saka in that game, was his composure. Like, like the goal he scored, it was like really good. Like the way, yeah, it was a mistake from the goalkeeper for me. He could have easily stayed back and he could have like stopped it. Like the goalkeeper made it easy for him, but still, he had a good composure to finish it. And then the cross, he could have. It
No,
was also like,
not just that cross. There was a cross in the first pullback in the first half where Cedric shoots really
yeah.
really
Yeah, the
close to
volley.
the volley was really close. So it was really good.
Yeah, it was like I wouldn't like hype him too much. Let him be under the radar and develop like
But
as
that's
a
not going
great
to
player.
happen. Already
Yeah, I
everyone's
know.
talking about him, right?
I know it's not going to happen with our fan base in Twitter and stuff. Yeah, but still like yeah. Hopefully, like I feel like we have got like a good player from our academy. Hopefully, it turns out to be like a great player. Let's see.
But it was again talking about Saka. The other person in that conversation was Hector Bellerin was our captain for the day, and I felt he had one of the. I mean, on the pitch he was one of our weaklings. Did you guys feel that way?
Yeah, like Hector Bellerin like is all about his pace. Since he lost that, I don't see like that much use with him. He cannot cross. He cannot like he can pass like really good, and he has never been known for his defending. So the one thing he was known for is pace, which he has completely lost it after that injury. So we can sign a better right back, but I don't know. He's definitely like one of the weak links like in our defense. But like as though like we don't have like a great defense, but given like on that day, like let's say like we start Gabriel, Lewis, and Tierney, he would be the weakest link on the right back position. So yeah. If we say that we should sign a lot of players in different positions, but yeah.
But one player we are glad we signed, Arun, is Pate.
Yeah.
He looks
No.
really comfortable in the midfield. He has not played a lot, but he looks really comfortable. The only concern I have is that he seems to get injured or run out of gas every
That is
game.
our curse. He was never injured in Atletico Madrid. He never missed a game with an injury in Atletico Madrid. That is something to do with Arsenal's curse.
No, but since the time he has come in, even in this game, he was hobbing. He was what? I mean, I feel
Yeah, I
that.
mean it's going to take time because when he came in, he wasn't starting right away. Like there was no action for a long time, and it's a new league that he's getting like used to. If you notice, his gameplay has been the same. It's
Yeah.
almost like at the same level as the party that we saw bossing the Liverpool midfield at Anfield. Like the thing about him is that he makes gameplay look so easy.
Yeah,
When he has the
he
ball,
just takes the touch, he turns,
exactly.
he does amazing
It
things.
makes things he makes things look so simple that other players like with that ungainly touch or like the way in which they move. It's very simple when he does it, but that's not really the case, right? So for me, the issues with his injuries and his fitness is probably just due to switching like leagues. So mind you, they do have like a break in Spain in December, right? So it's like the first time that he's playing, and he's not had like he's been hit with injury. It's not I expect him to be so much better next season. This
Yeah.
season, I would just think that he's just going to be like, okay, I won't hurt myself. I won't get hurt. I just make sure that we get things right. But yeah, if he's able to continuously play 60 minutes or 65-minute games, that would be good for this season. And then he can build on that. But I wouldn't put too much pressure on him right away to like play 90 minutes. That's not going to be possible. We've seen that already. And then when he gets injured, our entire gameplay gets destroyed because we do not have another dynamic presence in midfield. So 60 minutes is good if he's able to play 60 minutes.
But I was really concerned when he hopped off and then
Yeah.
Emil Smith hopped off. I was
Yeah.
really concerned, and already we have Tierney out. Already Auba seems to be out, and yeah, today we saw the message from Aubameyang that his mom's sick, and I mean,
He's coming back. Yeah.
we will be sending out our good thoughts to him anyway, and hope that we get our captain back in good standings. But Deepak, just to finish the Partey thing, right? Not just that he is playing good, he just makes Shaka look good, right? Is that I mean,
Yeah.
is that your feel to it? Because what I feel is that Shaka plays further upfield than normal. Shaka likes to keep the game in front of him, right? Like that's one of the things that we discussed in early pod. I think when we were talking about how Arteta has changed Shaka's gameplay, is he wants Shaka to have the game in front of him rather than like players running behind him. And having Partey do that is kind of making him
like,
better.
yeah, it should make him definitely like a better player because obviously Partey is like a world-class player playing alongside him. Because like if you see like when he starts with El Neni or like let's say Willock or someone or Ceballos even, like Shaka has to like do like a lot of things by himself. He has to tackle, he has to like pass, he has to make progressions. He has a lot of things in his mind. Maybe that is also one of the reason he tries to do a lot of things and makes a mistake. So having like a calming presence alongside him obviously makes him a better player. So yeah.
Now
So
that
as
you
I
touched
said,
upon Ceballos, do you see Ceballos coming back into this side if, say, Partey stays fit? If
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 Partey stays fit, I don't think so. Ceballos would get into this team. So like if we like let's say like if we want to rest Partey like after 70 minutes, maybe we can bring Ceballos. I don't think so. He would get into the starting lineup. Partey and Shaka is the best midfield we have, and so we have to start them every game.
Arun, I wanted to talk to you about the new signing, or new loan signing, Odegaard. So, how are you excited about it, or are you just like, yeah, it's a kid?
I don't know.
Deepak goes like, yeah, it's a kid.
No, I'm also on the same boat because the only things I've seen of Odegaard are from YouTube videos, and
That's how people say they are expert in anything, right?
yeah,
Watch
but
YouTube
but
videos.
I don't know. I've never seen him like at least Balogun. I've seen him play once or twice. Like at least like one of these under 23 games where you see. Even if, at the senior level, yeah, I've seen him play, but like I really haven't. I've never seen Odegaard play. It's only from a YouTube video that I got excited seeing the stuff that he does. But like in Spain, uh, technical players thrive in Spain because the game is not as fast as England. The referees are much more protective of players, and if you're good technically, you tend to have a lot more time and space on the ball in Spain. So I don't know if we can really judge a player and say that he could possibly do well at that age, at Odegaard's age, with the experience he has. I don't think we can expect him to have the same impact at Arsenal. Probably what he had at Sociedad, just because like I said, the pace is very different.
Mm.
Like you're not going to have the same amount of time that you had back in Spain on the ball. Like guys like people who are these tall defenders. I'm not able to name any one of them. Like all these tall fuckers are going to just like thrash you off the ball. You're not going to be having like all the time to move around, and like that's not going to be possible. So if you ask me if I'm excited, I don't know. I really don't know.
Okay, but Deepak, why I asked, why I came to you for this question is because we have given him number 11,
Mm.
which is a much higher number than what Emil Smith Rowe has, right?
Okay.
Does that mean that he is going to be the first choice ahead of Emil Smith Rowe?
He might be like, as you like we were discussing before, like you said, like Arteta prefers like Spanish players or like
Yeah.
players from Spanish league, so he might start ahead of ESR. So I don't know whether he should start ahead of ESR. Also, like I'm not that much excited with this signing because like it's just like a loan for 6 months. I don't know how much impact he's going to have in this short period of time. And he's not like some world class player to make like a difference in 6 months or something. So I'm like happy we signed someone like as like another backup for ESR, or like who can like
Compete with the
ESR
places, yeah.
is injured or something happens. Like we have someone to fill in or something, or even he can like give some competition to ESR. Let's see how he performs for the 6 months. If he does well, probably we can like sign him for another year. Or
It's like a risk-free loan move. We are not spending a lot on him. Even if it is a flop, it is not going to hit us, like in a bad way. So yeah, it's given the conditions, given the situation that we are in right now, only loan moves are possible. Like that's been made very clear. So then we have to be very intelligent with our loan moves, and if an opportunity like this arises, this is a much better thing to do than like taking Ceballos on loan. So.
You don't like Ceballos for any.
no one
No, I mean, for me, just think about it. We paid close to 40 million over 2 seasons for him on loan. On loan. Like that's has to rank as one of the worst pieces of business ever done. Like what does he have to show for the 40 million that we've spent on him? It's loan. The player is not going to stay. He has not shown any glimpses of what probably created the hype in the first place. If he really wants to go back to Madrid, he should do things that would make Zidane take note of him. Has he ever done anything of that sort? No. So Ceballos for me is probably one of our biggest mistakes. If he was going to be a permanent player and we got him for 25 million, yeah, I would say like, okay, for 25 million, he's a decent enough player. That's the best that you can get for 25 million in this market. It's in fact like a very good buy if you get him for 25 million. But if you're being an idiot and paying close to 40 million for him over 2 seasons of loan, then it makes no sense. None of his performances will ever justify that.
So is that a way of Real Madrid saying sorry that they gave Odegaard for such low fees?
You never know. You never know. Odegaard might turn out to be another Denis Suarez for all you know. So
yeah.
I don't want that to happen, and that never happens.
Ceballos is not playing for Real Madrid again for sure.
Yeah. I don't see him playing for Real Madrid again. Like, even the worst of Real Madrid players do something. Like all these guys, even though they get into the team somehow, they
Yeah,
do
yeah.
something that would make you take note of them. I have not seen Ceballos do anything.
Yeah,
That's
Real Madrid team is very tough to get into. Like they
yeah.
probably have the greatest midfield, like one of all time.
Yeah, if you're trying to compete with Cruz and Modric, show that with your performances on the pitch. If you're going to be playing like this, you wouldn't even get into the Arsenal midfield, let alone the Real
Yeah.
Madrid.
Only good thing which can happen for him is like Modric's contract is expiring and he's old. Probably they would take him up as a backup or something.
Yeah, but I don't think so. But talking about the next game, about United. We have United. Uh, are they visiting us, or are we going
That's
there? No,
it's
they are
our,
visiting
it's
us,
our
right?
home game. Yeah.
Yeah, they lost today, so that's a happy, happy scenario to be receiving them. If we could stop Bruno Fernandes and Pogba from dictating the game, I think we have a good chance about this game. My only worry is that about our players who might be missing out.
Yeah.
We want Tierney back. I know Cedric had a decent game, but we want Tierney back, especially against United, and we want Partey to play as much as possible. I don't think
Yeah.
Auba would be back, so I would still stick with Pepe on the left, and basically the same team. Probably the only concern for me is that David Lewis is another problem. I am not very confident about it, but I'm also very not confident about Gabriel starting the game.
I
Right?
think Lewis would start,
Hmm.
and if Tierney is back, he would start. Apart from that, I don't think so. We would make any changes to the 11 which we had against Southampton. Probably if Tierney is back, he would replace Cedric. That would be the playing 11, I guess.
But do you see us going on and winning the game or drawing the game? What's your prediction, Deepak?
Mm, I want us to win, but I think it would be like a I think it would be a loss for us, probably 2-1 for United because they are like a really good away team. If you see, like this season, they have struggled a lot at home. Yeah, like I say, as I said, they have like some negative goal difference at home,
Mhm.
and they have like a really good and away performing team. They are, for
But
me, they are the best counter-attacking side in the Premier League.
yeah, but they played today, and we have the game on Saturday, so they would have less rest than us, right? And
Yeah,
they are.
plus they would. Plus, it is Arsenal. They always turn up against us for some reason, or we always try to fuck up against United for some reason. So I expect us. I want us to win, but I don't think so. We would win. So for me, my prediction is like 2-1 to United. Probably Bruno Fernandes getting a penalty and scoring it.
But speaking about penalties, I don't remember the last time we considered a penalty.
Yeah, but
Yeah, we're going to
United
concede one
would
on
dive.
Saturday.
Bruno Fernandes would dive around the penalty box to get a penalty for sure.
Hmm.
Yeah,
So,
but like
mhm.
I think he has completely changed them. So he's a player we should like try to mark out of the game. But they have like really like good players who can like hurt us. Like I don't know how Pogba would play. If he plays like the way he did against us in Old Trafford, it would be great. He didn't turn up like at that game. Hopefully Partey controls him. But Pogba is
Holding.
like a really like a very good player. Even if Partey plays like really well, and Pogba turns up, I would still feel like Pogba would like affect the game a lot. Hopefully Pogba doesn't turn up. Pogba and Bruno Fernandes, as I said, like two players which we have to like keep an eye on and try to do something.
I'm worried about Rashford too, Arun.
Yeah, that's what I said. Like there are like a lot of players who always turns up against us.
But still, what is your prediction, Arun? What do you think would be the game?
Of course, he's going to predict the loss.
Yeah, of course, Alas.
No, like
It's
from a team perspective, right? I mean, we never do the team perspective and all those things in previews. That's not us doing a podcast. We always want to do after the game, but it's United. United games are special to Arsenal.
Very true. My prediction would be a loss. It's either going to be a 2-0 or a 2-1. More towards 2-0. I think it's going to be one of those games that we used to watch when Ferguson and Wenger were there. Like
Yeah.
we would try and do a lot of things, nothing would work out, or we don't show up at all, and then like United steamroll us all over us. I think it's more going to be one of the situations where we try a lot, nothing works out. United just score one or two scrappy goals and win the game. But yeah, my like Deepak said, they have been playing really well away from home. Though they have one day less than us. Not one day, yeah, one day, a couple of days. We played on Monday, right?
Yeah.
So we have more rest than them. In spite of all that, um, the, I think this might be mean, but seeing how they played today, I don't think they're going to be tired at all. So that would definitely keep them on their toes, keep them fresh and ready because they hardly did anything today. Nothing worked for them today. They weren't like, except for probably Bruno, no one was running around the pitch as much. And they probably won't be playing Matic as either. Like they'll probably be bringing McTominay in for the game. So that's the area where you need like more of your engine. Your engine is where you want players to be fresh the most. And if Pogba never gets tired, I've never seen him get tired. He has bad games, yes, but he never gets tired. So Pogba, and if, like Deepak said, if Bruno's kept quiet, then we have a good chance. But even then, I really don't see it because the quality that they possess up front with Rashford is insane. He's one of those guys who can create goals out of the most difficult chances. So in that sense, we have a lot of potential people who could definitely hurt us. Yeah, so I think it's going to be a 2-0. In terms of the team, that's another big concern for me because even up to now, it's all still up in the air. Like we don't know if KT is going to start. We don't know if Agba is going to start. We don't know if Partey or ESR are going to start. Think about the team if these guys are not playing. And that would be probably like the worst case scenario, but there's a high likelihood of that happening. So imagine like with Cedric on the left, Pepe up front, instead of Partey we're playing Elneny or Ceballos, and that midfield is dead. Nothing happens after that. The minute you put them both together, nothing is happening. So and who's the fourth one? ESR. Without ESR, who are we going to play? Odegaard is not going to be ready. Are we going to be playing Willer? So
are we going to? My question is, Arteta always does something unpredictable or something good against big sides. Are we going to go back to back three?
I hope not. It's a home game. I hope not.
Yeah.
I hope not. Going back to back three right now, we should I think the way in which we are playing and the rest of the teams are playing, back three should be like reserved for teams like City. Otherwise, we shouldn't really be going to a back three. If we go back to a back three against like a United at home, it definitely sends the wrong message to the players.
But I still feel that we will win.
Okay.
Because of the simple reason that Ole has never won against Arteta, and Arteta always pulls something special against big clubs. We have not seen we have not seen Arsenal turn up bad against a big team, even against Liverpool, whom we had a bad result, but we did have a good game against them. Right, we always turn up good under Arteta against big teams, and because I think he obsesses over the opponents during those big games and makes specific plans that works. And I think we are going to have one surprise on the pitch. I think that would be Berinov and AMN getting the nod ahead to keep Rashford quiet, or that's what I think is going to happen, and we are going to get a 1-0 win is what I'm thinking would happen.
1-0 would be good. I would take 1-0.
We would win 1-0. That's what I think is going to happen, and hopefully we keep the streak rolling and we keep them a little bit down, because United fans were becoming a little bit unbearable at some point in time, where they were talking about challenging for the title and all those stupid things. So it'll be good to put them down a little bit.
Yeah, they will challenge for the title, but they are not winning.
No, it's not about even winning. I don't think they are challenging for the title. In the sense, they are not playing well to get where they are.
No, good results. It's more the media that's hyping United up more than the fans, I find. because the fans are like more grounded. It's like I have my friends.
Probably
who are
you
fans
have
of
good
United.
good United fans around you, not mine.
No, my friend told me the exact same thing. Like he said, like you guys thought that you were a good team after beating us. Like don't forget that you beat us. We are not a great team. Like even now during this run of forms, he keeps telling me that we are not good. We are just getting the results at 3 points. I know that's the only thing that matters, but honestly, we are not good.
Yeah. If you take Bruno out of that United team, they're pretty average team.
Yeah.
He has made the complete total change difference to them.
Yeah, but I still hope that we would be able to win that game. And it's been a nice spot, guys. Thank you so much for joining in today. Hopefully, we win against United and come back with another win. See you next week. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.